Happy Monday. This is Jameson Mitchell, your intuitive guidance counselor, here with your week in tarot. This week we're going to be using the Steampunk Tarot, which is created by Barbara Moore Aly Fell. And if you've been a regular follower of my videos and a reader of my blog, then you know I take the entire tarot deck and I separate it into three piles. The first pile here on the left consists of the 22 major arcana cards, which talk about the life lessons, the universal principles, the spiritual influences, and the psychological factors that are at work as our theme through the week. The second pile consists of the 16 court cards, or known as people cards, which are the kings, the queens, the knights, and the pages of tarot. And a card from this pile is going to show us what tarot is asking us to consider as an approach throughout the week. And then the last pile here on the right consists of the remaining 40 minor arcana cards, and a card from this pile is going to show us what a potential challenge is going to be for us as we move through the week. Okay, so having said that, take the first pile. I'm going to shuffle, pull a card. Okay, this card is the Magician. So as a theme, he represents the universal principle of as above, so below, because he's connected to Source. So this week we're being asked to consider how we are connected to our Source this week. And Source could be whatever it is for you. For some of us it's God, for some of us it's Goddess, higher power, divine mind, one mind, whatever it is for you. That's what this card is suggesting. The other aspects of the Magician card is being connected to whatever your talents, your skills, your abilities are, and being asked, how can you put those to use? He represents being a person who has a specialization, or he's considered an expert in some field. So ask yourself, what's your specialty? What would you be considered an expert in? And he's also connected to having tools of the trade. So once you identify what your specialty is and your area of expertise, what are the tools of your trade, and how can you put those to either good use this week or even better use? For those of us who are self-employed like myself, this card is all about self-promotion. So how can you promote what it is that you do? How can you sell yourself? So those are some of the things that this card is asking us to consider. And now our approach for the week. This is the Knight of Swords. Okay, when the Knight of Swords shows up, he represents being prepared for a challenging week. He goes into the week ready for a battle. So it's very interesting that he would come right after the Magician, because if you know what your tools are, you know what you have, then you're better prepared to face the challenges that you are going to face throughout the week. He's also a card that asks us to consider how we may rush into situations. So this card is asking us to take a step back this week and pause. If you are prone for rushing into a situation, this card is asking you to take a step back. The interesting thing about both of these cards is that the Magician card is associated with the planet Mercury, which is the planet of the mind and of communication in astrology. The Knight of Swords is assigned the astrological sign Gemini, which is also about communication. So this week with both the Magician and the Knight of Swords, it's about how are we using our words this week? How are we communicating with others this week? I said the Magician was all about self-promotion, and one of the ways that we promote ourselves is by the words that we speak. So it's very important that you are mindful, going back to the Magician, because this is the planet of the mind, you are mindful of the words that you are speaking. If you are looking for ways to promote yourself, then the Knight of Swords is asking you to investigate ways in which you can put yourself out there. Okay? So again, the Knight of Swords is about looking at how you may be rushing into a situation, taking a step back, possibly investigating further because the more you know, because swords are all about ideas, information, the more you know, the better you will be prepared to face whatever challenges that may come up your way. Okay, so those are those two cards. And so our last card from this pile is the Nine of Pentacles. Okay, so now the Nine of Pentacles is a card that represents material gain. It's also a card of teaching, training, instruction, and guidance. So going with the area of expertise and investigating things further, what possible training or teaching might you still need to have this week? This card is also about independence. So going with the idea of the Magician, I said this was self-employment, but he also is the number 1 card. And 1 in numerology is all about individuality and independence. So it's connected to the Nine of Pentacles in that regard. So how can you be more independent? How can you be more self-sufficient? That goes back to the tools of the trade. The Magician has one of all the minor arcana card elements here. He has the cup, which is the heart. He has the sword here, which is the mind. He has a wand here, which is about work, enterprise, creativity, inspiration. And he's standing on a pentacle, which is the material world and resources. So how do all of those connect, and how can you use all of those elements as you move towards becoming more independent, more self-sufficient, things of that nature. So the idea is about taking the tools and the resources and how can you move towards becoming more independent. Okay, so summing up, the Magician card is all about being connected to Source. So examine your connection to Source and just know that everything you experience in the material world has a spiritual connection to it. And so it's asking you to consider what's the connection. Also using all the tools and resources at your availability this week to the best of your disposal, because the Magician is all about specialization and expertise. So how can you either put to good use all the tools and resources that you have at your disposal, or how can you take those and use them even better? The Knight of Swords is asking us to take a step back, not be so quick to rush into a situation. How can you investigate it further? Because the more that you know, the better prepared you will be to face whatever challenges that come along the way. And then the Nine of Pentacles is all about how can you take the tools and resources at your disposal and put them towards the goal of becoming more self-sufficient and more independent. Okay, so that's your week in Tarot. I am James M. Mitchell, your intuitive guidance counselor, and I look forward to sharing this space here again with you next week. And until then, have a tarot-tastic week and take care.